Population collapse is one of the biggest threats to the future of human civilization. And that is what is going on right now. People have no idea how fast the population is going to collapse.
What do you think is the biggest threat to mankind right now?
I'd say the biggest threat right now is population collapse. The super low birth rate.
Really?
Yeah.
Over like nuclear war, natural disaster?
Don't we have an overpopulation problem?
No, we have an underpopulation problem.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
So this is the most commonly misunderstood situation. China's got a huge population collapse problem.
Really?
Yeah.
China, you actually get penalized if you have more than one kid.
No, we're operating on things that were true in the past but are no longer true. So China did have a one-child policy, but like about 10 years ago, they changed it to a two-child policy. And then a few years ago, they changed it to a three-child policy. And birth rate kept plummeting the whole time. What we face is population collapse.
Huh.
Collapse. Like, people have no idea how fast the population is going to collapse. Japan actually lost like 600,000, went down by 600,000 people last year.
What about the U.S.? We got to increase, right?
Yeah, what I'm saying is the U.S. has been below replacement rate for 50 years.
Like yearly, you're saying?
Since the 70s.
Yeah, since the early 70s, since like 71, 72.
So why are we spewed with all this BS that, we're overpopulating, but the population's growing, right?
No, it's not. So, I mean, I should say the like lifespan is increasing. Mm-hmm. People are living longer. That's the only reason why the population of Earth isn't plummeting, but it will plummet.
What do you think happens in like the future then? What's your kind of thought on that?
Well, I think we've got to turn this around. We've got to have at least replacement rate, if not more, on the baby front. And by the way, these are not matters that are subjective. You can just literally look at the birth rate. Yeah. It's like, it's an objective number. Like how many babies were born. It's like they recorded this information, so.
How detrimental is that? Like, what's that? If it keeps trending this way, how long do we have before it's like
a low birth rate is a slow death for a civilization. It's not a fast death. The average age just starts drifting up, and then, basically civilization will die with a whimper in adult diapers. Kind of sucks, doesn't it? It's like anticlimactic, it's not exactly. I mean, frankly, if you say, given the choice, like, I'd rather civilization went out with a bang than a whimper in adult diapers.
Yeah. What's a bang?
Bang would be World War III. The population decline problem, I think, is possibly the biggest risk to civilization. It's certainly one of the biggest risks. A lot of people think that there's too many humans on the planet and the planet can't sustain this number of humans. This is absolutely not true. We could double the population without any meaningful damage to the environment. If you just simply look at the birth rate statistics, you can tell what the future is going to be like because you can see how many children were born last year. And then you can say, like, is the birth rate trending down or up? It's been trending down basically almost everywhere. So if you look at the birth rate last year, you know how many adults there will be in 20 years because that's how many babies were born. The trend is, like, you don't have to be some master or statistician or something like that. You can just look at kids born last year trending to well below replacement rate. And a lot of countries have been well below replacement rate for a long time.
Well, the concern is that if you have kids, then they'll contribute to climate change and then they'll kill the Earth, right? That's the leftist concern, is that we're overpopulating the Earth and that we're going to kill it. Are you trying to overpopulate the Earth so that we can go to Mars and take over Mars?
The Earth is far from overpopulated.
Is this a deliberate strategy?
The Earth is far from overpopulated. Yeah, so most people in the world are operating under the false impression that there are too many people. This is not true. Earth could maintain a population many times the current level. And the birth rate has been dropping like crazy. Unfortunately, like, we have these ridiculous population estimates from the UN that need to be updated because they just don't make any sense. Really, you can just look at, say, what was the birth rate last year, how many kids were born, multiply that by the life expectancy, and say, okay, that's how many people will be alive, in the future. And then say, is the trend for birth rate positive or negative? It's negative. So that's the best case, unless something changes with the birth rate. I mean, you can look at, take Japan, for example. I think, I'm just going off memory here, but I think the population is roughly 110 million. But last year, if you take the number of children born times the life expectancy, which is 85 years, it's very impressive life expectancy, then Japan would have, I think, around 68 million people, roughly half of the current population. It basically seems as though as soon as you have like urbanization and education beyond a certain level and income beyond a certain level, birth rates plummet. And so as countries get wealthier, their birth rates plummet. It's somewhat counterintuitive because people will say like, well, it's too expensive to have a baby. Nope, the wealthier you are, the fewer kids you have. The more educated you are, the fewer kids you have. So it's the inverse. I'm worried about the birth rate, which you alluded to earlier. Contrary to, like most people think we have like too many people on the planet, but actually this is an outdated view. Assuming that AI is fine, assuming that there's a benevolent future with AI, I think that the biggest problem the world will face in 20 years is population collapse. Collapse. I agree. I want to emphasize this. The biggest issue in 20 years will be population collapse. Not explosion, collapse. Like the thing that tends to happen is like once the birth rate starts going down, it seems to accelerate in a downward trajectory. Like Japan is a leading indicator here. That's insane.
They're about to collapse.
They lost 600,000 people last year. That negative 600,000 last year. And the most like their life expectancy is like 85. Like that's the only thing. That was what was keeping the population plummeting before. But now, despite having like the world's longest lifespan, they're still losing population.
Oh wow!
Well, if that trend continues, Japan's just going to flat out disappear, as will most countries in the world. So, I'm just saying, if that trend continues, hopefully it doesn't. If people like live in some bustling city, they think humans must be everywhere. But actually, there are very few cities. Like no place in America has the density of Manhattan. You can put all the humans on Earth in the city of New York. And if you're on a plane flight and you look down and you say, what percentage of the time if I were to drop a ball where that ball would hit a person? Basically zero. Even in a city like LA, which you think, oh, that's a crowded city, but so like, looking at it from above, what's the cross-sectional area of humans relative to the rest of the ground? And it's much less than 1%, even in LA. So we sort of, if you're in a big city environment and you see a lot of people, you sort of, you sort of extrapolate that to everywhere. But it's actually very rare to see a concentration of humans. The Earth is very sparsely populated with humans. There's not enough humans, far from being too many. And I think people are still sort of operating on the assumption that population is just growing like crazy, when in fact the opposite is occurring.